Let's just give it a test run. Let me hear you.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hello. Ooh. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Playpen. I'm your host, Bubbles, and thank you for joining me. Before I get started this week, I have a special guest with me. It is my friend Pavlov. Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Yes, Pavlov, would you like to do a formal introduction for yourself? You know, pronouns, what your role is, whatever you'd like to say.
My pronouns are she, her. I've been doing kink for quite a while now. Makes me feel a little bit old, actually, when I think that I've been doing this for coming on 10 years.
Oh, man.
And I identify more as a sadomasochist sexually, but I like power exchange relationships and roles as well. And I am here to talk about fear play, which is a big thing for me, and I'm excited about that.
Yay! I'm really happy that you're here. When I thought about making this episode, because this is our Halloween episode, I'm like, what is good for Halloween? And I'm immediately thinking about the chest of scary masks that I bought for my daddy to put on so he can scare me. And I was just like, oh my goodness, fear play. That sounds like a great topic. And I'm like, but who would I talk to about this? I'm like, Pavlov, who else? So I am happy that you were able to come on and join us for this today. Before I get started, I think I have a set of announcements I need to read off. Oh, yes. This episode is coming out before November 4th. So for November 4th, we have Femmes Coloring Night is going on. It's just a coloring night. We hang out, we chat, we get to know each other. We kind of just have fun and spend time together. This is a group for people who are femme identifying. So of course, trans people, non-binary people, genderqueer people are welcome. As well as women. I've had a few cis women ask me if the group was for them as well. It is. When I say femme, I mean feminine identifying. So if you're on FetLife, the event listing is already up. And if you are not on FetLife, because I know I have a few listeners who are not there and they have found me through Instagram, just message the Playpen Pod on Instagram for access to this event. Yep. On top of that, I have the Blackberry Book Club is meeting on November 17th. So check out the FetLife group for details. Our book of the month is Trauma Stewardism. I cannot remember the name of, unfortunately, I forgot the name of the writer offhand, but the book is extremely helpful. I really, really want to share more of the information, and I'm actually considering starting a non-exclusive book club just so I can share this book with other people. It is really great for just learning how to take care of yourself, and especially when you are a person who is emotionally supportive to other people. Definitely a great resource. The book was written with doctors and nurses in mind, but it's worth it to still pick it up and read it. The Blackberry Book Club is a book club exclusive for Black women and femmes to congregate and share our experiences with one another through literature. For me, I'm just excited to even have a space to share with other people. So I am looking forward to sharing more of that with everyone in a couple of weeks. Our meeting is November 17th, as a reminder. And last announcement. Before that, on November 10th, I'll be presenting my self-love exploration expression class. I only ran this class back in February, and I was a little sad that I didn't run it again, mostly because I kind of forgot I wrote it. But as I was going through my little archives, I found it and I was like, oh, wow, I can really, there has been so much change in my life over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months that updating that presentation to share with other people and to offer more insight is definitely something I'm looking forward to doing. So November 10th, that event is already up on FetLife as well. I will be posting the Eventbrite page. I promise. I was just, I forgot about it this week. But the event is available on FET. And again, if you would like to attend, contact me. This is a free event. I don't charge anything for people to come listen to me talk. But tips are always appreciated. I need monies too. But I don't mind a good tip. If you would rather buy me something off my wish list, go ahead and do it. I love things. I like little gifts and trinkets. I got this tent in the mail this week, and I was so amazed. Luna, my meta, she came upstairs with the box, and she's just like, "Oh, you have a package," and I'm like, "A package for what?" Like, I didn't buy anything. And I saw the tent, and I just could not stop like screaming. I was like, "Oh my god, somebody bought it!" So
It looks fabulous.
it is adorable, and I have spent so much time in here already. My my daddy keeps laughing at me because he's like, "You're taking all your calls in your tent, aren't you?" And I'm like, "I am. You are correct." It's that place. So I love it. If you are listening, the person who bought this, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I will cherish this tent because I really like it. I've already put it up and down like 5 times trying to put it in the right place in my bedroom, and I reorganized my entire bedroom to make sure this tent fit in here because I love it that much. So thank you very much, whoever it is that sent me the tent. Whew. Okay, so on to our topic, fear play. So Pavlov, before I give the Google definition of what fear play is, what is your definition of fear play?
Well, I have to apologize for my dog suddenly, now that I'm supposed to be talking, being a maniac. Let's see if I can get her to calm down. Aha, there we go. For me, fear play is kinky or sexual activity or play that I'm doing in which I feel afraid as one of the primary emotions that I am feeling during the play.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that. That's definitely one of my. I think that would line up pretty well with the definition that I have of it. It's for me personally, it's any play that or scene that is centered around creating the emotion of fear for myself. Definitely how I see it, and also fear. The Google definition gave me pause because I don't really see it in the same light. The Google definition of fear play is any sexual activity involving the use of fear to create sexual arousal. How do you feel about that definition before I go on?
I feel like it has the cause and effect backwards. Can you say that again?
Any sexual activity involving the use of fear to create sexual arousal.
Yeah, that cause and effect is backwards for me.
Mm-hmm.
The emotion of fear makes me sexually aroused, and it doesn't have to be in a sexual context.
Yes.
I become sexually aroused when I feel afraid. So like if I go to one of the spooky haunted houses, like I'm really sexually aroused the entire time because I'm scared. Part of why I like public speaking is because I get a little bit afraid and then I'm turned on the whole time. Now I want to make a distinction here. Worry and fear are different. Worry is very much like a cognitive function where I'm thinking a lot and like I'm concerned about future outcomes, and I'm like, if this happens, then that happens, or what if this happens? That's like a worry. And that's not what I mean by fear. Fear is much more of like a physical emotion for me, and it's not like I'm up in my head about it.
Right.
So worry is not sexually arousing to me. Fear is.
Yes. Okay, I really like that. That is good. For me, I would say pretty similar. I also enjoy fear play outside of the sexual context, which is why I don't like the Google definition. There are a lot of things like kink-wise that I enjoy that don't necessarily bring me sexual arousal. They just kind of, maybe they bring like a mental piece or emotional piece or something like that, but they are not necessarily a sexual kind of feeling for me. So I have a little bit of a meh feeling about definition that I see online because it's a little, I feel like it's a little too vague.
I think it's too specific. Actually, I think that.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, exactly.
Well, it is also vague, but it's too narrow is the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, like I mean, I guess that's true. There is play that I do in order because that kind of play makes me feel afraid. And then that's even more sexy to me, but that's not, I don't know.
Right.
I don't like it. I agree with you. I don't like the Google definition.
No, I don't like the Google definition either. So I definitely feel like, for me, fear play is less of a sexual thing. It may be something that happens while I am being sexual, but those two things are not, exclusive to one another. I cannot say I don't get aroused from fear. I do, but it is in very specific circumstances with very specific things happening. It needs to be set up the way that I want it to be set up for me to gain any sexual arousal, but I do just enjoy plain old fear play without the touching. I think part of it is being able to just that release of the chemicals your body has when you freak out and you're scared is enough for me where I'm just like, okay, I was just scared for like 10-15 minutes straight. I'm ready to take a nap. Like I think that the fear itself is enough for me where oftentimes I don't need the sexual aspect to be able to feel satisfied after I'm done with a scene.
Yes, the experience of feeling afraid, and then when that ends and I don't feel afraid anymore, like that is a very complete set of feelings. And there doesn't have to be sexual activity involved in the play for me to feel satisfied.
Yes.
I'm going to be super horny also physically, but I will feel like a cathartic experience through the feeling of the fear and then having that ebb down and feeling okay again.
Yes, especially when you have a partner who's like providing that emotional support after the fact, because like it's coming from a place of really high intensity emotionally. Coming up from that to like up to a place of someone being extremely compassionate for you and being caring towards you really offers me an opportunity to just be like, now I can take a nap, and like a really good one. So,
yes, very good sleep happens after fear play.
Yes,
like really nice sleep, very very deep sleep.
Absolutely agree. I honestly I can't remember. Part of the reason I love fear play is because it helps me cry. I can cry. Like I do a good job crying on my own. I cry a lot. I'm laughing at myself because I watched The Princess Bride recently for the first time, and I was sobbing like a baby at the end. And I was
did you just say for the first time?
Yes.
We're that different in age?
No, not at all. Most people my age have seen The Princess Bride before now. I did not watch The Princess Bride as a kid because it was not something I even knew existed. So right. So we did not see those kinds of movies as kids. We didn't see the classics until we got older and we watched them ourselves. We did not have a grown-up to show them to us.
Got it. Okay. It is a very good movie, and yes, there is definitely crying.
My daddy, we were walking to go pick up breakfast, and he's asking me about it, and he's just like, "Oh, The Princess Bride, have you seen it?" And I was just kind of like, "No," and I had been putting it off, just like I put off watching The Never-Ending Story. I did watch it a couple of years ago, and I started watching The Princess Bride, and I fell asleep, so I did not watch it. I did the same thing with Fox and the Hound. I fell asleep too.
Okay, I have not seen Fox and the Hound because I heard it was sad, and I just didn't want to watch that.
It is sad. Like there's nothing about it that's like yay. Like definitely darker than most of like Disney stuff that they're normally pulling out. I was a little sad at the end. It's like Bambi dark.
Yeah, Bambi was hard. Pinocchio was terrifying.
Honestly,
which, kind of works for me,
yes.
but like very scary.
I think I like Pinocchio for exactly that. It's scary. It's definitely got that fear play element to it. And I also like the dollification element of it to me. I know people think and they look at dollification, they're like, oh, you're a big part of dollification for a lot of people is being dehumanized. But for me, I am naturally a person who dehumanizes myself because of experiences that I've had. So part of dollification that is interesting to me is that like your owner or your maker breathing new life into you. They have created you, they have brought you to life, because at the end of the day, Pinocchio is a doll. Like he is a little wooden boy. So he is given this life by Geppetto that he does not have outside of that. I'm getting into dollification, but like I could totally go on a rant about this.
That is a kind of play that I have not done, I think maybe at all, with one scene that I need to do, because from a creative aspect, I just love it. I absolutely love it. But we are getting sidetracked.
We are. Okay. Back to fear play. So we talked a little bit about what fear play is like for us. But what are some kinds of safety parameters you would want to offer up around fear play?
The thing that's most important to me is how it affects my reactions and my judgment once I am afraid. And I am a freeze or a fawn type person when I'm afraid. And the kind of play that I'm doing is going to make a difference on if I'm freeze or if I'm fawn, but I'm almost certainly going to be one of those two things. And what becomes really important about that is that I really need to understand my limits and my boundaries ahead of time.
Right.
Because trying to assess what is good for me or not good for me on the fly once I'm afraid is going to be difficult for me to do. I can remember the limits and boundaries that I set, and I can stick to those. So I don't have trouble doing that. But in the moment, it's difficult for me to try to make a judgment call, because I'm either just going to be frozen and not able to react to attempting to make the judgment call.
Right.
Or I'm just going to be please this person, make them happy, make sure we survive this experience.
Right.
And so that's for me the biggest kind of safety factor, is just being able to make my inability to make good judgments once I'm afraid.
Right. And I think that's a really important one, because like, we were talking about this earlier, but I had not stopped to consider, how do I react when I am afraid, and how does that impact the judgment that I have in my scene? And depending on, is the reaction something I want to happen? Is a thing that I had, looking back on a recent experience with fear play I had, it definitely made me stop and think like, oh, do I want to have this reaction to this thing? Going into my own personal stuff, I was recently playing with my daddy, and we were being definitely a little dark, definitely a little scary. And he was trying to get me to agree to do something I would never do. And he knows I would never do it, but he was using it as a something to really tell me, I'm going to do this to you, and I'm not going to do it until you say you want it, but we're not going to stop doing whatever we were doing at the time until you say you want this to happen, and then we can stop. And I just was like, oh my God, no, I don't, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want him to, make me do something or agree to do something I would never do. I don't want to say that to him. But that feeling of eventually coming up and being like, I have to tell him that I want to do this terrible thing I don't want to, just so he can stop hurting me right now, is a big thing that like I at the time I was like 100% okay with, because I was like, this is the best thing that I can do in this moment to survive this encounter, is I'm going to say exactly what you want me to say. I turn into the fawn. And prior to that, I don't think I had ever stopped to consider if I did like freeze or fawn, or try to run, because that's also another thing that I have been known to do, is a little bit of escape artist work. I'm getting out my cuffs. Or if I am not, tied up or restrained in a way, I'm going to try to fight you. And fawn me does not fight. Frozen me does not fight. But that run me definitely wants to fight a partner, if we are in a situation where like obviously we're all consenting to it, and it's something I'm going to be like, hey, I'm definitely not feeling in the mindset to just kind of give in pretty easy today. Let them know beforehand before you start throwing punches and kicking.
Yeah, fear. I don't have a flight response, and I definitely don't have a fight response. So, but that if those were responses that I had to fear, then that would be important for me to know and make sure to communicate with my partners. Is resistance, is fighting something that's happening? On a top end, I am not going to want a physical fight response to fear play. That's going to be like outside of my comfort zone as a top.
Yes.
But like a emotional fighting, or like a brattiness, or like a something like that, that's verbal or emotional, or that kind of a thing, that kind of a fight back, that would be fun for me as a top.
Right.
For
Okay.
somebody to have that reaction to fear.
Yeah.
But I definitely, as a top as well, I really want to know how the bottoms, what the bottoms responses to fear are.
Yes.
So that we can take that into account so I can read them well, and we can plan safely.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. It's always good to be very upfront about how you're going to respond to something. I had went to Dark Odyssey summer camp, and like this is a tangent that's not, it's tangentially related to this situation. I'd gone and I had met this guy, and we were messaging before camp, and we were like, okay, we're gonna do this thing. And we got to camp, or no, yeah, I'm pretty sure we had messaged beforehand, but we got to camp, we were kind of just talking to each other, and there was a point where he was like being more detailed about what it was that he wanted to do. And I was just like, yeah, I think he wanted to be more, he wanted to degrade. And I just kind of was like, yeah, I don't do that. And my response to degradation is not one that you're going to want, because my response is to get very aggressive with you back. I am not going to be able to sit through you being derogatory towards me and not respond in some way, shape, or form, whether that is like my fighting response, whether it's verbal fighting or not. And that's not what you're looking for based on what you're telling me. And it's okay that we can't play with each other unless
Right.
you want to just do something else. And we ended up doing something else, and it worked out great. But like those things that we originally negotiated did not work, because I don't have the response that he would have been comfortable handling at that moment. And it wasn't a response I was comfortable giving.
Right. Not a fun place to be playing.
Right.
That's something that can be useful about play that's really based in emotions or focused on emotions, is that even if you haven't done that kind of play before, you can know how you react to emotions and to emotional experiences. And that can give you kind of some frame of reference for the way things are more or less likely to go during a play that's evoking that emotion.
Yes, definitely agree. Yes.
So I find that useful.
Right.
Well, what kinds of play, I'm curious, do you do? Like, not everybody is afraid of the same things, right?
Okay.
So what kinds of play is scary for you?
Scary for me. Play that's scary for me is number one, feeling trapped. Not being allowed to leave a space is definitely very scary. So like if I know that you know, we're me and my partner are heading towards doing something a little bit darker and a little bit more scary with each other, if my partner is like holding me down and not wanting to let go, and maybe in a playful way at the time, but then it's like, okay, we're slowly turning this into a scene, aren't we? Okay. And you know, we don't, because me and my partner have that kind of dynamic where we know each other very well and we have spent time kind of figuring each other out. We are both okay with kind of negotiating on the fly when it comes to each other. If you are a new person, please do not do this. I'm just gonna say it right now. Don't do what I do. I do what I do because I have a trusting, healthy relationship with my partner that if number one, if something is going wrong, I can say no and we can just end it right there. And it's not a moment where we have to, you know, chat it out. Or, you know, have more of a bigger issue on our hands than if it is someone I am super comfortable with. So I'm very comfortable with my partner and I can just kind of do something on the fly. But you know, being restrained, not being let go of, being cornered definitely is the same. Well, it's similar, but it's, you know, being like walked up on and just having someone in my face and I cannot get them to go away. It causes me a great deal of emotional anxiety, and then it turns into fear and I'm just like, I can't make you leave. Goodness, I'm trying to think. Oh, definitely being convinced to do something that I know I do not want to do. So having things poked at that I hate and really having it thrown in my face, and it's like, this is going to happen to you now. And that feeling of like no really builds from just like, no, you're being annoying, to no, this is a real fear now. Like now I feel exactly like you're doing that. It's definitely like that similar feeling of like having the boogeyman in the dark. You know, he's lurking around the corners. He knows all your fear. It's actually, this is the perfect way to put it. Freddy. Freddy is coming out with everything he knows about you because he's dancing around in your psyche, and he is chasing you around your childhood home, yanking your mom through the window. He is freaking you out, and that is what I like. That is what I like. And I don't want the person to really be scary. I do want them to be funny.
So you know how you have like imaginary tea parties when you're a kid, or like yes. I did anyway.
Yeah.
It was always a 4-person tea party. It was me, and then I picked one stuffed animal or doll. Okay. And that was on a rotating basis for like who was on my good side. Okay. So the star one got to come to the tea party. And then there were 2 permanent guests at every tea party. One was Pee Wee Herman and the other was Freddy Krueger. And that was my tea party when I was a kid.
That is so funny. Oh wow. Yeah.
I have always been into fear. It has been a thing.
I love it.
Feeling trapped is also on my list of what's fearful for me.
Yeah.
And so a lot of kind of just bondage makes me feel trapped. I know it helps other people feel relaxed.
So what
are my kinds of play that make me feel afraid?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we talked about feeling trapped. Pain actually is scary to me. So pain play is also fear play for me. Mm-hmm. And that's really easy. And that's how I have most of my sex, because most penetrative sex hurts me. And I like pain. And then I feel afraid about the pain. And then I'm also feeling afraid. And then I become aroused. Mm-hmm. So it's
a circle.
It's a nice little loop there. Misogyny play is major fear for me. Big time fear. Okay. So a lot of the things that are kind of, I hesitate to say the norm in kink, like the cis het male dom female sub stuff, to me a lot of the time looks like a ritualized misogyny. I'm not trying to say that's what other people are doing. I'm saying that's what
Yeah.
it looks like to me, and that's what it feels like to me.
Right.
That terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me. So and things like things like beltings, a beating that's with a belt, that is
Okay.
heavily misogynistic to me. That's scarier to me than being
Okay.
beaten with a heavy stick, which has more pain, because the misogyny theme is just so terrifying.
Yeah.
Um,
Before we move on, I have to ask, because I'm just curious, what about the belt feels misogynistic to you?
because that is how men in my family history beat their wives.
Okay. Okay.
And it is in my family backgrounds, that's the way to hit a woman, because it doesn't, like, you don't have to worry about breaking bones. So you
Mm.
wouldn't hit a woman with
Oh,
a
wow,
stick, and you
yeah.
wouldn't hit her with your fists, you hit her with a belt.
Okay. Now that
Like that's the
just
proper
all
way.
of that just you're right. That just all clicked in for me. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, like, so it would be a man who beat his wife with his fists
Mhm.
would be looked down on as doing something wrong.
Right.
Whereas a man who's beating his wife with a strap, with a belt, that's just normal life.
Right.
So fists are less scary to me than belts because of misogyny.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay.
And then that I will switch from one kind of real big guns to the other kind of extreme, torture play, simulated torture and abduction play. Big time
Oh,
scary things, big time
Yep.
scary things that
Yep.
I like.
yes. I like abduction. I have not been abducted. And I'm looking forward to the day that it happens consensually.
Right.
Let's make sure we say that on the podcast so that if I do go
Yes.
missing, they don't pull this up in court like, well, she said she was cool with it.
No. Play, consensual.
Abduction, play. If you're planning on kidnapping me, don't play.
I did an abduction scene as a first date, as a first meeting. Now, this is how I was able to do this. It was a friend and previous dominant of my sister. So like she knew him,
Okay.
and he and I had not met.
Okay.
So like he was thoroughly vetted, great guy. We both wanted to do this thing, and it really worked because I had no idea what he looked like. And it was fantastic.
Oh,
and
man.
I've
See,
written
as you're
about it
telling
on
me,
set.
I am thoroughly interested in all of this. But as a first date, that is so scary.
The amount of fear,
Mhm.
the fear was so strong, it was impossible to even imagine feeling anything else.
Wow.
I was so deep into fawning that was just it was insane, right? And then he abducted me from a public park. So
Mhm.
I'm like walking this jogging trail, and he's in the woods off the trail, and he grabs me and then pulls me into the woods, and then pulls me through the woods, like in this public place, like that people kind of could have seen but didn't. Then he puts me in his car down on the floor, and he drives away. And I know it's him because, like, wait, I mean, what kind of a coincidence would that be? Like, it has to be him. But like, what if it's not him?
Hold on, that is so funny to me. It's not funny, but it is, because it's like, can you imagine being truly kidnapped when you just negotiated
Right.
a scene? Ugh, that's the
Right.
worst.
And part of what was scary about that is that either nobody saw us or nobody stopped us. And I'm like, holy shit, how easy was that to actually do, right? And then he takes me back to this Airbnb that he had rented, and I still haven't actually seen him yet. Okay, like he was behind me and he had my face covered. I still haven't seen him. And he's like, he's giving me orders of like undressing and doing this. And I could not have obeyed more perfectly because I was fawning so hard. Like, not doing what he said was impossible. It was absolutely impossible.
Wow.
Anybody on FET can read about this experience.
Mhm.
My sister neglected to tell me that he was sizable.
Oh,
And I feel like that's a thing that you mentioned.
yes.
Right?
Yes, that's something
I
you tell people.
I'm a small person.
Yes.
And so I was scared because of the abduction, but then like it almost didn't fit. And then I was really scared about that. And so this was like, I was at a level of fear. And then the fear like went into overdrive. And
Oh, wow.
I don't think I have, like, that was one of that it might be the sexiest thing I've ever experienced.
Wow.
It was absolutely a fantastic first date, and other people should probably not replicate.
I cannot lie. This sounds really hot. I'm loving it right now because I'm just like, fear is such a powerful emotion. And especially feeling that, I think like that feeling that vicarious fear through you retelling it just now is just like, ugh. Like I love that. That is truly amazing. I can't say the times that I have been that close to genuinely afraid, um it it was actually at summer camp again. Dark Odyssey summer camp for me, for some reason, like at least the last time I went, was just like, I'm going to knock so many things off my bucket list, it's ridiculous. And I had negotiated a scene with a friend. My partner had played with this guy's wife like a year before, and she was very nice, very sweet. And we met, and I was just like, oh, I would like to play. Like, you seem kind of cool, and you know, whatever. Like, you like to hurt people. I like to be hurt. Isn't this fun? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we were negotiating, and he was like, how far can I take it? And I was just like, that's a hard thing to answer.
Yeah, it is.
And I was just like, okay. He's like, okay, let me ask a better question. If I potentially kick you in the face, are you okay with that happening? And I'm like, I don't know, but I guess I am. So I said, yes, I am comfortable if that is something that might happen. And he's like, okay, so we're going to meet. You can come down to my cabin. We'll walk to the dungeon, 6 o'clock. And I'm like, okay. So of course I go run off, and 6 o'clock comes. I'm standing in my RV because I rented an RV for that year. And I'm like putting on my clothes, and I'm putting on clothes at summer camp. Number one, I never wear clothes at summer camp. So like, I'm like, I put a dress on. Like, I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, and I get down there and I get to his cabin, and he notices, and he's like, you're wearing clothes. And I'm like, uh-huh. So we get to the dungeon, and he's like, okay, are you ready? And I'm like, yeah. So like, actually, I do feeling like I'm fighting for my life. Fear play, pain play is exactly the kind of pain play that I have the most endurance for. And like rough body play. I feel like I am focused very hard on getting out of that situation. And that is definitely something you cannot do with everybody. So, you know, before we had been playing, he was like, okay, so like, I've done mixed martial arts, I've boxed, I've like, I think he said he used to do like bare knuckle boxing somewhere, some terrible. So I'm just like, I'm gonna die. I love this. Like, this is great for me. And he's like, okay, are you ready? And I'm like, yeah. So he punches me in the chest. Somehow, some way, we're going for like an hour, and I don't even remember that we were fighting for that long. He's picked me up, he's thrown me on the ground so many times. And what broke me was like, I wasn't afraid until the last time he threw me on the ground. He was on top of me, and he had taken, we had negotiated for knife play. So he took out the knife, and he's holding it to my throat, and he's looking at me, and he's holding me by the back of my hair. And he looks at me and he says, you genuinely look afraid. It took you a long time to get here, didn't it? and I was just like, melt fucking gush, like like I'm a puddle. Oh my god. And I literally, like, I went home from camp that year and I was just like, I'm having a moment. Like that was a moment. Like I found a very interesting part of myself I had never seen before. And it was just like, holy shit. Like that was intense. And that scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in life. And it was genuinely a good scene. So introduced fear play to me in a different way because I had been used to kind of like the boogeyman under your bed, but like this was not a fake person.
Right. Knives are a really easy way to take things into, or knife play, into a very fearful place very, very quickly.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, retold the story and now I feel like I need a cigarette. Like that was so good.
I know. Now I'm just thinking about I'm just thinking about nice scary things.
Yes, me too. Okay, so before we end, do you have any fear play scenarios besides the one you shared that you think will be interesting to explore?
For somebody who just who doesn't know whether or not this would be a fun thing for them, I would actually suggest doing one of the haunted house things with either with a group of friends or with a partner and going through and just being in a place that is meant to evoke fear and seeing how that feels inside of yourself, and then seeing how that feels maybe connected to your partner if you have a partner with you, and maybe kind of leaning into that experience because that's something that starts and ends. So it's a relatively discrete time frame,
right?
And not necessarily, and I think there's a lower risk there for it messing up a dynamic or throwing a monkey wrench into your relationship if it doesn't go well. So I think that that's a nice safe bet if you want to really try it.
Yes.
And besides that, I say think about what makes you feel afraid, what scares you, and play into that, because it is all about what scares you.
Yes, I like fear play and I hate horror movies. But watching horror movies is what taught me what I enjoy in fear play. So if you're a person who even isn't that close to understanding what you like, watch a couple horror movies with a partner and see how you feel afterwards. Definitely brought out some things that I hadn't considered before, but it's always a good suggestion to try something low risk first. And like, you know, if you don't like horror movies and they don't stir you up a little bit, then, you know, you'll learn something about yourself. You're not going to be hurt and your dynamic's not going to be ruined over spending $20 on a weird ticket to a haunted house. So,
right.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking kind of like as a top, playing with fear and wanting like a bottom to feel afraid. I think holding someone down or introducing a bondage is a lower risk way on, from a top's perspective. That seems lower risk to me because it's very easy to undo and easy for me to really watch how they're reacting.
Right.
And of course this has to actually feel scary to them. So if feeling tied up makes somebody feel relaxed and comfortable, then obviously that's no good. But something that I would say, go small.
Right.
Go small, let it watch to see, is the bottom having a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response? Is that a fun response? And I stick to freeze or fawn mostly, but I'm more fawn in some play and more freeze in others. And I play around with that based on, I don't know, my mood at the time.
Right. And also there's nothing wrong with taking a break and asking if they're okay, especially at the beginning of anything you're trying that's new with a person. I understand that it might take people out of the headspace to be like, hey, are you good? But like, if you're trying something new, you really want to make sure that your partner is like able to have that out, because if they are a person who freezes, they're not going to be able to tell you sometimes that they're not where they need to be. Or a person who fawns, they're really not going to be able to see it at first, and they're going to think they're okay. And coming down in aftercare will be really rough for them because they are having, you know, a very new experience that they had a very strong emotional reaction to, especially when they might not have been sure they wanted. So definitely take that break, ask that question, check in.
Yeah, planning small, I think, is the way to go starting out, because you have to come all the way down from the fear. You have to recover from the fear to really know how it was affecting you. When I'm fawning, I don't always know that I'm fawning.
Right.
I now know enough of my fawning behaviors that, like, in my posturing and like, I know enough about like the way that I hold myself physically when I'm fawning that I can kind of tell now, but that took me a long time to figure out. For a long time in the moment when I was fawning, I just thought that I was really enjoying what was happening. And it's not that I wasn't enjoying it, right? Like, I'm not trying to say like these were bad experiences.
Right.
I'm saying my perspective of what's happening when I'm fawning is really different from afterwards. So planning something small that's short, then you can kind of come down from the emotions and kind of like reflect on what happened, and then plan something bigger as the second go round based on the information of the first is my advice.
Yeah, honestly, I love that. That is fantastic advice. Definitely start slow and build up intensity. And really, we should be doing that for most things. So make sure to take your time, talk to people, especially the ones that we love and care about.
And even for people who are experienced in doing other things, I think, at least for me, it's important to not do too many brand new things at exactly the same time. To kind of try to only introduce one or two new things at a time, because otherwise I just don't know what kinds of responses I'm having to what. It's hard for me to tell kind of what's going on.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. I agree. I try not to try too many things at once when I'm just trying to figure it out and understand what it is that I am experiencing with one thing. So I agree with that.
And then after you've kind of experienced things separately, then you can put them all together and have an abduction play first date. And but you have to know the parts separately first.
Yes, that is pretty funny. Okay, unless you have anything else to add, I am ready to wrap it up here.
That's my thoughts on it, I think.
Well, wow, this is a really good episode. Like, I am so excited. This is great. I don't think I really spent time talking about fear play, so this is immaculate. I love this. This is very spooky, but like still really, really nice. I am very happy that you had time to hop in and come and chat. I really appreciate all the time that you have had. We have been sitting and chatting a lot recently, and I appreciate that. So
I love talking with you, and I enjoyed listening to the other podcasts and the other ones that will come out in the future. And yeah, I like hearing about the things that you're doing. It makes me happy.
Oh, thank you. I am happy that this is my submissive. I'm so happy that it makes you happy, that it makes me happy. So like, it's just, you know, it's a full circle of submission here at the Playpen. So honestly, I'm so glad we did this and access to it. Again, FEM is trans people, non-binary people, genderqueer people, and women. You are allowed to attend. If you identify with the feminine things in life, go for it. Come join me. So also November 10th is the self-love exploration and expression class. I am just excited to show you guys how to care about yourself a little bit more. I had a really hard time with that, so I'd love to help other people have less of a hard time with that from my own experiences. And November 17th is the Black